Let's start just by going around, and all of the panelists that are here, we will do just a quick introduction. So you can just say your full name, where you live, your kind of like place involvement inside of the fly fishing world. And if you would like to share either or your favorite fly fishing pattern right now, or your favorite river snack, we would love to we'd love to hear a couple of your top secrets right out of the gate. And I'm gonna just call on everybody. Why don't I just start with you, Fran?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lindsay, for hosting this and the OnWater team. This is a really fantastic um, opportunity for women in fly fishing. My name is Fran Silva-Blayney. I am the co-owner of Canopy Fly Fishing. I co-own with my daughter, Natasha. And let's see, my favorite river snack. Oh, I'm based in Colorado Springs. Um, I think is probably a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just sort of easy to digest. And then my favorite fly right now is probably going to be a beadhead pheasant tail. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for being here. And I'll pop just right over to Natasha.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Lindsay, for having us. So my name is Natasha. I co-own Canopy Fly Fishing with my mom, Fran, and I'm also based in Colorado Springs. We do a lot of our workshops there in Colorado Springs, so it's nice that we are both local. And then I can't pretend that I actually eat while I'm fishing. I usually skip meals, so I don't really have a favorite river snack. I probably should. I usually just run off of coffee in the morning and maybe a burrito. But my favorite go-to fly, I'm such a basic person, but I love a chubby Chernobyl. Just bringing them to the surface if I can. And yeah, that's just my go-to.
Awesome. I'll pop over to you, Jen.
Hey, Jen Ripple. Gosh, I live just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I guess in the fly world, I'm most known for being the editor-in-chief of Done Magazine, which is an international women's fly fishing magazine, which some of you probably have questions about. It's morphing into Done Outdoors. So all women's outdoor sports. So if it's done outdoors, it's done outdoors. That should be launching in the fall. So if you like to do things other than fly fishing, it will still have um, very fly centric, but also every other sport that you can imagine that's done outdoors. We just find that women are multi-centric, right? We like to do a lot of other things instead of just one thing. So, we're just opening up a platform for everything for every woman. And I guess, the thing that I guess Dunn is most known for is telling the everyday story. So you don't have to be a professional angler to write for the magazine. As far as river snacks, I would have to say it's probably in the summertime a good old Savi bee. That's what I'm so I'll just have a glass of wine on the river. And as far as fishing, I'm really not a trout angler. In fact, my friends call me the anti-trouter. But for trout, I would probably say an elk hair caddis. For warm water, probably a clouser minnow. And salt water, which is where my heart is, where, Mary, you're living where I want to be. Probably an EP minnow.
Awesome. I'm excited to see the evolution of Done.
Yeah, should be fun. Can't wait for
Yeah, cool. Jess, we'll pop over to you.
Hey everyone, Jess from Cleveland, Ohio, but now I'm in Bozeman, Montana. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having this. This is awesome. Literally just excited to be on this panel. So helped create Ohio on the fly, but since I've moved away, handed that over. And now I guess I would be kind of like a mentor to a lot of the gals back home in Ohio, kind of not many women when I first kind of started fishing over there. I know it sounds crazy because I hasn't been that long since I've been fishing. But yeah, favorite snack is literally anything that you hand to me on the river. And then a Modelo. I love Modelos. And what was that? Oh, favorite fly. Leggy boy. I've caught anything from a trout to a smallmouth to pike to a muskie on a leggy boy.
Sweet. Yay. And now Jess is in my backyard, which is super fun.
I know. Love to hang out.
I know. Cool. How about you, Shyanne?
Cheyenne. I live in Carbondale, Colorado, but I'm from Flint, Michigan. So fellow Midwesterner, Jess. And fly fishing guide, travel host. I've been a guide for almost 10 years, which is crazy to me because it feels like it was just yesterday that I started. And a mom, which is crazy. So that takes up a ton of my time right now, which I love. I get to share all of my adventures in this journey with him. So I feel like that's where a lot of my attention and focus is. And it's just been such a special chapter of life. As far as favorite fly, I can't remember who said a beadhead pheasant tail. Big fan of pheasant tails. If I could fish any fly anywhere, it'd probably be that. But I'm gonna have to say like a super skinny body, really natural, no bead. A lot of our fisheries here are just really technical. So anything small, unfortunately, we're fishing like 22, 24, which is not, but that's probably what I would use. And then a raghead crab if I was fishing saltwater, because salt is totally my love as well, Jen, right there with you. And that's me.
Awesome. Team teeny tiny midge life. Cool. Hey, Mary, let's go to you.
Hey everyone, super happy to be here. Thank you, Lindsay. So fun to connect with some old faces and some new faces. My name's Mary Grigsby. I'm calling in from Baja Sur, which is the bottom of the Baja Peninsula in Mexico. I have a company called The Fish Ranch. We do day trips, fly fishing kind of DIY style, and then we do hosted trips, like all-inclusive hosted trips. I'm on week 7 of my hosted trips right now, so a little bit sleep deprived. And I was telling them earlier, I have a guest in the background taping a broken toe, so trying to focus, but like super happy to be on this call. Yes, we do the hosted trips. I also have a small fly shop here in Baja. It's kind of clubhouse / fly shop, and an online store. And like Cheyenne, I'm a relatively new mom, so I think a lot of the answers to the questions are going to be filtered through that lens of having a little one. Our boys are actually really close in age, so that's really fun. Okay, favorite boat snack is definitely Ruffles. The Ruffles here are really good, or Doritos, and Topo Chico. And oh yeah, favorite fly is, we have a fly here called the Wiggy Airheads. This guy, Jay Marikashi, ties them, and it's just the go-to for roosterfish. It's like, it's the #1, and people aren't really drawn to it because it's not very flashy. It's really basic, but it's the one to throw. So tan over white or olive over white. And Fran knows because she was just down here catching roosterfish on them. So yeah, super happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yay. Hot fly tip. Cool. We'll go over to Kayla.
Hi, Kayla Lockhart. If you haven't met me before, let's see, I'll start. I'm in Newcastle, Colorado now, but I was in the Northwest for 10 years, born in Minnesota. So you won't be surprised that my favorite fly pattern is a hobo spay. I live and breathe steelhead and salmon, so it's been quite the challenge adjusting to what Shy said, the small flies. I want to just freaking chuck my fly box in the river every time I have to put a small fly on, but I'm trying. It's like humbling because it makes you a more well-rounded angler. That's what I tell myself. But other than that, though, my other favorite fly would be a Duck Norris, which is a topwater duck fly grown in Minnesota. That's like nothing is sicker than having a pike come up for a duck fly. And it's a Rio fly. I don't know if it's tied by Britta, but she's a female tire for Rio, and it'd be pretty badass if it was developed by a woman. I'll have to check into that and see if she tied that one or not. Favorite river snack is probably Swedish fish. I'm a candy person. I love candy, so anything that's got sugar, I will eat it. Other than that, a little about me other than fly fishing is I love to do a little shout that I'm on the board for Sportsmen of Boundary Waters and Native Fish Society. If you haven't heard of them, they do a ton of great conservation work. Native Fish Society is in the Northwest, so they do a lot of advocacy for steelhead and salmon, and the Sportsmen for the Boundary Waters are the go-to to help conservation and preservation of the wilderness area. So definitely check them out. But yeah, stoked to be here. Incredible panel. Thanks again, OnWater, for putting this on. It should be a good time.
Yay, awesome. Kristen.
Hello. I'm just going to quote everybody else by saying, first and foremost, thank you for putting this on. And also hello to everybody who is here on the panel that I have not met yet, and that would be everyone. So hello. I am from Michigan. I work out of Clay Ellen, Washington. I've already completely forgotten what I'm supposed to say. Am I supposed to say what I do?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Or yes, that's what's
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I run fly fishing education out of Washington State. I have been doing that and guiding since 2019, kind of moving myself more into the full realm of education here on out. So that's been really fun. My favorite boat snack is definitely white cheddar Cheez-Its. And if I can get a box of Milk Duds in my hand, I'm especially happy. My favorite fly is kind of twofold. I really love the Chloris Leachman double bunny articulated streamer fly. It kicks ass and I love it. And then there's also a pink and purple Duracell nymph. And I think I might just love it because one of my clients lovingly named it Toots and gave it a complete backstory. Toots works at a gas station in Virginia. She smokes a pack of Pall Malls a day. She doesn't take any shit and she gets work done, and she does. So Toots the fly works really, really well. And I would say that those two things are my favorite flies.
Awesome. Cool. Laura, do you want to quick say hi?
Yeah, hey everyone. Sorry I was a little late. I'm Laura Buckmaster. I'm the social media manager at OnWater, formerly the social media manager of Trout Unlimited. So really excited to be here. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a fruit snack and candy girly, just like Kayla. And just kind of fishing everything right now. So I've been fishing like in the Ozarks a couple weeks ago. So just a little bit of everything, but yeah. And then since I was late, has everyone had a chance to go and introduce themselves?
That's all of us. Yeah.
I love it. Perfect.
We cruised
Well,
through.
we had a couple questions. Of course, this is a chat. We don't want it to be too prescriptive, but just had a couple ideas for some fun questions to kind of kick things off. So I'll go ahead and start with the first question and then, yeah, let all the panelists give it a chance. So just wanted to hear from y'all who took a chance on you in the fly fishing world and how are you paying that forward? And are there any specific women in the industry right now who inspire you? And I'll drop that question in the chat too, because I know that's kind of a lengthy one.
I could. Do you want someone to start?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So yeah, so the person that took a chance on me, his name is Reese. He owns the Backpacker Shop, and I was the first female to be in the fly shop, and so that was awesome. Who introduced me to Jeff Liskay and Jerry Darkus, who are two big names in our area in Ohio. And like I was mentioning before, we did have quite a bit of female anglers, but not very many. So Katie Johnstone and I started Ohio Men the Fly because of that reason. We wanted to create a stronger women community in Ohio. But it was really cool because one of the first people that Jerry and Jeff kind of introduced me to was Jen. So I had a phone call early on with Jen, which was awesome. So how I paid it back was I worked many, many years in his fly shop. I did many, many events. I brought in a lot of really cool tires, and then of course started Ohio Women on the Fly. So, and yeah, and he travels to Reese, the guy that took a chance to get the fly shop. He travels to Montana every year, so I'm excited to row him this year down the river. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I can jump in next. That was great, Jess. Like you, I started a fly shop too, and mine was Bob Mitchell's fly shop in Minnesota. There wasn't much fly fishing community in general, and I showed up and the only other female in the class. Oh, he did classes. So when I was like 19 or 20, I just Googled how do you fly fish, and I was like, oh, I cannot figure this out on my own. So that led me to Bob Mitchell's, where he did these instructional classes, and he broke it down. Where the first one was you learned how to tie a fly. The second one was you learned how to tie the water or read the water, and then so on and so forth. And then you eventually got on the water, and it was really awesome. It was like a little crash course. But the only other female in that class was his mom, the shop owner's mom, which was cool. She was awesome. But it definitely ignited me wanting to find a community outside of, just the older men in the shop, which, full transparency, my biggest issue was as a younger girl, a married man just like couldn't bring me out fishing, and that was my biggest struggle. I don't know if anyone relates to that, and obviously I wasn't hitting on anybody, so I don't want anyone to get any ideas, but it was just a weird dynamic, and I don't know if that's a unique experience. And so that made me realize that, like, oh, there's like a struggle for women to be able to get into the sport and have mentorship. And so that's what ignited me to want to get back. And fast forward, I've been in the industry now for 10 years, and I mentor with the Mayfly Project, which is teaching kids. Like, that is definitely my passion. I love teaching kids. There's no ego involved. They're not afraid to fail or mess up. But that's also echoed within women's clinics too. I host women's trips, and I do a lot of casting instruction, where I'll just be like, hey, I'll be at this park. But yeah, it's been a really incredible industry and community to be a part of, especially when you do find your people, and how supportive the women are in this industry is incredible. And there's so many people I look up to, so many people on this call. Jen was one of my first experiences as a woman too. Like, the first time I ever wrote anything was when I moved to Oregon when I was 25, and I wrote an article for Dunn Magazine, and that would have been in 2015 now, which is a long time ago. But it's really cool how many women are in this industry that want to help and support you. And so it's just whether you just got to reach out and ask, pretty much.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kayla. All right. Anyone else? Kristen?
Yeah, I can hop in on that. I can piggyback on the mentorship stuff there. I was lucky enough to have quite a few different people take a chance on me, from different guides to different women in the industry, like J. Michelle Swope up here in Roslyn, Washington, to Dave McCoy at Emerald Water Anglers. And what all of these people, serendipitously or not, were able to show me was that education is super important. So I began paying that back with free fly fishing casting in the park, where it was mostly just a charade so that we could all get together and drink beer in public and cast lines. But what it did was facilitate curiosity in fly fishing. And I think more importantly, showing other women that it's something you can do, and it's something that you can do casually. It's something that you can do without having to be good at it. As long as it makes you feel good and you have the guts to pick up a stick and wave it around in public, you can come out, which was really, really nice. I think that these days I haven't been doing as good of a job as at paying it forward as I could. I know that I put out free educational videos for folks, but I really do want to get back on the ground with seeing people in public and trying to facilitate community surrounding fly fishing. So that's something that I want to do better at. And specific women in the industry that inspire me, I would have to say J. Michelle Swope is one of those women. She is a community beast. She's somebody who just inspires such a welcoming experience. I don't know if any of you have had the luxury of meeting this woman before, but know that if you do, you're going to be called Babe right away. You are now Babe forever. You are one of her best friends, and it's just a very wholesome and welcoming experience to be in her presence. So I try to follow in her footprints as much as I can.
I'll hop on and say a couple words as well. Sorry, I lost my voice the past couple of days, so I don't know if I'll chime in a ton, but just because it's a little struggle to talk. But I actually had a little bit of a different experience, and Kayla can probably attest to the valley that I live in is challenging.
Cutthroat.
It's cutthroat. It is it's super cutthroat here. And I had a really hard time finding mentors and people who would want to like fish with me. And I got a lot of pushback pretty early on. I'd say simultaneously that probably goes hand in hand with like fishing, but also I was like posting on social media and I'm like, yeah, my fish. I was just so excited. I was like young, super jazzed about like fly fishing and wanted like, you know, to share that with the world. And then started guiding. And it took me a really long time, or not a really long time, but like 2 years to find someone who was like excited to be my friend and was like also wanted to fish. And that was Heather Harkavy. And we were the same age and we met at a fly fishing convention. And I remember like we both saw each other from like across the room. And I was like, oh, another young girl. Because at the time, I think I was like, maybe it's just my perspective, but I was like really young and naive in the fishing space. And there just wasn't a lot of like 18, 19-year-olds running around. So we just like immediately connected and she just like scooped me under her little arm because she's just so outgoing and friendly and welcoming and loving and like the greatest human on the planet. And it just gave me like such a safe base. I'm like, okay, amazing. There are other women here. I don't have to be like in protection mode and like feel like I have to not lean and find a community. And that I think connection really inspired me to create events and clinics. So like pretty quickly, I was like, wow, if this is the experience that I'm getting, I'm sure this is happening to a lot of other women. And started Ladies on the Fly and was running these events and clinics. And then I had Coulter, so it's been a little pause, but I'm starting those back up again this year. And I'm so excited because I love connecting with women. I love being able to, there's just something about their aura and their energy and the excitement and like nothing beats that. So yeah, just a little on my experience.
Thanks for sharing, Shyanne. Anyone else want to share? Or we can always move on to the next question too.
I can jump in real quick.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mary.
Sure. Okay. So who took a chance on me? I would have to say that all my guests take a big chance because, you know, it's a lot of money to take a fishing trip and to travel to another country and to show up, you know, not really knowing exactly what to expect. I'm new. I'm like relatively new, very new, by all standards. So this is my second season doing the hosted trips. And last year I had 4 weeks, this year I have 8, and then next year we're on track to have 12 or 13. So it's growing a lot. But just the first people that showed up and were like, hey, we're here to fish. I'm like, you guys don't know, you know, how brave you are and like how valuable that is to me. Fran came to the Women's Week this year. And yeah, so I definitely, the clients, a lot of credit to the clients for, you know, taking that risk and that leap of faith and being brave. And I don't know how I'm paying it forward yet. So hopefully there'll be more opportunities. But okay, also, yeah, as far as like the guests this year, I had a group come that included some of my old captains. I learned to fly fish out on Long Island, fishing for stripers. Yeah, both in Jamaica Bay, but then also out in the Hamptons. And this year I had one of my old captains, Paul Dixon. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's kind of a legend. He's awesome. And he came down with a group and it was like very full circle to have him on the trip. Yeah, so that was really special. And as far as women who inspire me, this is such a great question. And I think, you know, we could go on and on and on about it. But what really came to my mind was the women that have come on my women's trips. Because like I said, it's like takes a lot of courage to just show up. And a lot of the women on the women's trips are learning and they come and they're like, I don't know how to tie this knot, or, you know, I need a place where I can, you know, learn to, you know, how to change the leaders and practice casting. And there's just really something special about the women's groups. We're all still friends. We all still have like the group chats and it's kind of like this alumni of the Women's Week. It's really special. So I just have so much respect for these women that just put themselves out there and show up and really have no agenda at all, except for like have fun and connect with other women and learn a skill or like hone a skill, practice a skill. Yeah, a lot of respect for them.
Awesome, Mary. It also sounds like you're paying it forward right now with helping someone with a broken toe. So
yeah, no, he's on his own.
Oh no. Okay.
He tied it. He actually like did it he had all this stuff. I was like, okay, this
Oh,
is gonna
bless. All right. Anyone else want to add in?
I'll go real quickly. Mine is very obvious. My mentor was Fran, my mom. And I'm only sharing this because I was so fortunate to have a family member and who was a female, or is a female, sorry, Fran. And it was so eye-opening because fly fishing obviously is still very male dominated. And I have a grandfather who fly fishes, and he was not the greatest teacher. And Fran can attest to that, not her father, my dad's father, but it was just really wonderful being able to learn from an older female. And we ran into an older woman actually this past weekend while we were in a tournament, and she was probably in her 70s, and she was so shocked that we knew how to fly fish and she actually told us, like, I don't want to sound offensive, but I didn't know that women could fly fish. And I think it's so important for us to just be out there. And so all of you new mothers, it's so cool seeing you showing your kids how to fly fish, because typically in the past that has been my grandfather, my father, my uncle, who has shown, women or men how to fish. And so it's really cool to see women as mentors, as we get older. And yeah, I think that I was really fortunate, and I hope that others are just as fortunate. And paying it forward, I mean, Fran and we run workshops, and we try and get as many female clients as possible. Just by us being out there, they come up to us and they just ask us, can you show me how to cast real quick? This is so cool. I never seen this before. And yeah, going off of what Kristen was saying, like just being out there and getting people curious is the coolest thing. So yeah.
That's amazing. Is anyone teaching a parent to fly fish currently? Just me.
I try to teach my mom, and she's a pretty good angler, but it's still a work in progress.
There you go.
I have plans. I have
just taught my dad.
just retired, and I have plans to get him out here and do this. He's never once shown any interest in it, but I'm gonna make him.
I just taught my dad. He's 93 years old, and we started out spin rod fishing, and we took him out for Father's Day, and he was like, okay, because we were all catching fish on fly rods, and he couldn't get one on a spin rod, so he agreed, and I taught him how to fly fish. 93 years old.
That's
amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Goosebumps. Oh my goodness. Well, with that, I think we can kind of move on to the next question, unless anyone else wanted to chime in or had another thought. But yeah, so next question, thinking, can y'all recall a specific experience that felt like a standout accomplishment or moment of pride as an angler, and just what have been some of your wins on the water? And I'll drop that in the chat here too.
That's a tough question. It all depends on what you consider a win.
Can be a little win. Yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, I mean, one of the wins is definitely like when I have been able to teach kids, and sometimes when they start out, they want nothing to do with fishing. They think it's dumb. They don't want to be there. They're complaining the whole time. And I, work with them for multiple months, and then it's like that full circle, and they figure it out on their own, and all of a sudden that challenge becomes something that they're enjoying. And that to me is like the biggest win, is when you can just continue and push through the person that doesn't want it, and it's going to be good for them, and then you see that evolve. And it's a little selfish, like it's like living vicariously through them and experiencing when you first started and everything. But on a personal, just fishing specific win, I've been extremely fortunate and privileged to be able to travel and fish. And so I say that with very much the perspective that I recognize where I'm at in the industry. And I'm really grateful that I get to go on these trips, but definitely, God, it's so hard to pick a fish, dang it. But I would say the Payara I caught in Colombia, I got to go there in 2019. And I've never worked so hard for fish. We fished so hard to try to get one. And then we had to leave the Payara, which was in the Orinoco River in Colombia, and go to peacock bass. And the whole time, like, I love bass. If I could fish for one species for the rest of my life, it'd be bass. And I just could not stop thinking of the Payara. And so I convinced the guide to leave and go back so that we could catch one. And the water, it's like crazy fast trolling water. I'm fishing a 12 weight with 565 grain line, full sinking. And it's like a fly that I tied in preparation for this trip. And it was like, honestly, the ugliest looking fly I've ever tied. But it was like a 3-hook fly, ginormous, just filled with craft fur. And I finally got that Payara fish. And that one is definitely going to be a standout for one of my memorable moments and successes on the water. But yeah.
I'm just updating my bucket list as we speak, but all right, anyone else?
I'll chime in here. So I guess mine is more in the journalism world. When our first magazine launched in 2013, and I just had the opportunity to publish all these really cool stories from women who are everyday anglers, right? Because back in 2013, I knew I had spoken to someone who was a guy who was very well respected and who I loved in the industry. And when I told him that I was coming out with a women's magazine, he said, you know what? That's great. I'm sure you're going to have a great magazine, but you'll only have one because there aren't enough women. And it didn't even bother me. I just knew he was completely wrong. I just was like, yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong because there are great women out there. If I'm out there, I know there are a lot of great women out there. And it was just humbling for me when I reached out to all these really cool women that I had been following or watching, and they all said yes. Not one woman said no to writing an article for that first magazine. And so that was the first one, right? To just be able to give a platform to women, to be able to share their stories. And then the second one would be when our first print magazine showed up on the shelves of Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million and everything. I mean, it's like birthing a baby even better, because it's just like, there it is, all these women's stories that have been silenced for so long. There they are out for everyone to read. And I just thought that was really cool. And as far as fishing, I just got back from fishing the River Spey with Gordon Castle in Scotland. And if there's one place you want to go and you like to two-hand cast, Kayla, I'm looking
I
at
was
you.
drooling over that trip. I was like, how can I be there?
You can. Do you know that you can fish that 5 miles by just renting a beat for like less than $100? So it's a place, if you like to two-hand cast, you like Atlantic salmon, this is your river. And I would say that was the most memorable trip for sure.
Cool. So for me, I think I didn't realize how important Ohio on the Fly was until I left, right? So now that now that I've gone, it's really cool seeing all these women that you were the one that kind of taught them how to put the rod together. Now teaching lessons, doing trips, hosting events, working in the fly shops, getting a raft, like all these things, right? So I think that's pretty freaking cool to be that person. And then my favorite thing ever is randomly getting a text from someone that you have taught with a fly or with a fish that they caught and they're excited about, or they're on the river by themselves, or these little accomplishments that you helped make them feel comfortable to be out in the water. And then my personal, accomplishment is like, I remember the first time like backing up a trailer, getting my raft off in like a pretty public access and getting down the river, bringing my friends to safety and just being like, hell yeah. And so now it's from there. And then I'm now like obsessed with like rowing. I love it. And I just did my first class 3. So I got to do the Clark Fork, row the whole Clark Fork. And I definitely want to do more of that. I think I'm actually kind of liking rowing a little bit more sometimes than fishing. And I hate to say that out loud, but it's freaking awesome. So, but yeah, those are my little accomplishments.
That's badass, Jess. We also have an app for paddling. Find us on Paddleways. So
I turned off my video, not my audio. How embarrassing, geez.
girl, I was 10 minutes late to this. I feel ya.
I would love to hop in on this one. There are a couple of things that I would like to talk on, but one of them is just like something that's come to my attention more and more recently is how satisfying it is to have confidence in my knowledge and my skills in a way that I can put that into others. So, for example, what I've been seeing a lot of is women specifically coming out. And maybe it's their first time out, and I don't care. I'm going to ask them to do some more advanced stuff. So I try to get them stacking slack, which out where I'm at is a skill that folks need to have. And it takes a little bit of hand-eye coordination, and a lot of people panic at that. And there's always this moment where I see their shoulders tense up or their shoulders drop, and I realize that they don't believe that they can do it. And in that moment, I like to tell them, you are going to get this. In 15 minutes, we are going to be celebrating. And how would you like to celebrate in 15 minutes? And then watching without fail, 15 minutes later, as they get this skill that took me months and months to figure out on my own, and they just get to have that. And they did it themselves. I coached them, but they did it. And that has been a really beautiful moment that I have been enjoying. Those are my wins on the river. When I see somebody who has 2 eyes, 2 hands, a brain, 2 legs, they can do this. I know they can do it because I can do it, and I'm a slow learner. And then watching them get there is kind of the most magical thing in the entire world. And I get to incorporate that into my everyday life, which is just mind-boggling. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, my successes has been dropping the imposter syndrome. And it took me 10 years to do it, which feels insane. But I did. And it's part of the reason why I'm showing up with purple hair is because I'm realizing nobody can check me on what I am confident in. I know what I'm capable of. I know that I'm a badass angler. I know that I'm an incredible educator. Nobody can check me on that. So I don't feel the need to hide who I am as a female on the water. I don't have to tone myself down to hide and fit in. I get to be as weird and outrageous as I want, and nobody can say anything to me that's going to buckle my confidence in what I know. And that has been kind of life altering, and that's been in the last year. So I'm very happy with that.
That's awesome. I would love a 10-part masterclass on how to drop imposter syndrome. Awesome. Anyone else?
Can I piggyback off of that real quick? Speaking of imposter syndrome, I am a very novice fly tyer. I picked it up when I was working in a fly shop, and I had nothing else to do in the winter while customers were out fishing, and so taught myself how to tie flies. And Lydia and Jane can attest to this, but fly tying conventions are all men. And it was very eye-opening for me because I had not really tied flies very much. And I was also being invited to these shows to tie flies. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way they're going to ask me so many questions. I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember tying just this little emerger. I made it up. I was like, yeah, this looks like really buggy and super fun to use. And I would go out to South Park and I would toss it in and I would catch these beautiful fish with this fly that I made up. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to tie this at the fly shows because it works and it's super easy and I can talk to people while I'm tying it, little emerger midge. And I remember they would come up to me and ask me about my fly, oh, what do you call it? And I'm not going to curse, but I thought it was funny. to call it F the patriarchy. And I also used an acronym of an FTP. So when men would come up, I'd be like, oh, it's called an FTP, you know, and they wouldn't ask anything of it. And then when the women would come up and ask me, I would explain to them, you know, what I'm calling it. And I had women coming up and asking for this specific, I need the FTP. Can you give me the FTP? And it was like the best thing ever because I was so new. And yet here I was, you know, getting women to like get excited about a silly fly. But I just thought like little moments like that felt really successful in my mind because I didn't think that it was really possible. Because I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to get like shut down. They're going to, you know, not want me back. And we keep getting asked back. So it didn't fail, but yeah, it was cool to just be like, no, I got this. Like, this is something that I'm really loving and I really enjoy. So.
Can I add to that really quick? So Lydia was just saying like apply to your fly fishing, like your fly tying shows and things like that. Like I think a lot of reason why women aren't in there is because they're just not like taking the chance to actually be there. Like I could 100% think that if you would go up and text or email someone that's involved with that show, they will definitely have you on there. So I mean, I think showing up and like, you know, it's hard not having imposter syndrome, but showing up and being really stoked about being involved, I think that's a huge thing. And then that's how more women are going to get involved. Lydia and I had a big discussion on it. Or even like, you know, breaking out of the norms. Like, you know, I've done so many woolly bugger women's fly tying events. Like we could do a lot more than woolly bugger. So I remember one time I was at, not to name any fly shops, but I was at, they're like, just do a woolly bugger or like a San Juan worm or something. And I was like, okay. And I showed up and we did like a 6 streamer, right? So but yeah, I think you know, I do think that these guys, like I think that women just need to show up more. I don't think there's any like, you know, I think yeah, just show up, get involved.
We did get a little bit of pushback, but we do have some men that are in that industry who are just like overwhelmed with joy to bring us in, and it feels so great to be invited over and over again. And we're yeah, Lydia and Jane, you know, you guys know, like there's more and more women coming into that fold, so it is really cool.
Awesome.
Should we segue into like just I'm interested in just some call outs on progress that we've seen in the industry over the past. I feel like we've all been, I mean, varying numbers of years, but I feel like there's a lot of progress that's taken place. Are there any like standout areas or items that you all have really noticed that's just like, wow, this is so cool to see?
I mean, where do you start, right? There's been so many in just the past 10 years, even. I would say gear is probably a huge one because back in the day, we had to wear men's waders and, you know, fit into our grandpa's boots and all that kind of stuff. And now there's just so many cool brands out there and brands that are owned by women as well, you know, women making women's gear, which is really cool to see.
I still have a little bit of an issue with women's gear. I think the colors are still wrong. I want to see I want natural colors. I don't want pink and orange. But we've definitely come a long way. I can remember being on the water with my youngest daughter, not Natasha, and we were called out on the water like, oh my gosh, I've just never seen women fly fishing. And this was 10 years ago. And it was now, I don't think that would happen when you're on the water. I don't think so that has been a big change to see more women on the water for sure.
I think on top of that, women that are starting to be instructors, guides, rowers, right? The ones that are in charge of their own trips, taking themselves out, taking their friends out.
Glad you said that.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that. Like I've been like looking up and seeing like another boat of all of these women that are also laughing and having a good time together. And it's just like we see each other and there's like the sparkly eye contact and then we just go our own ways. But just seeing that is really inspiring.
Yeah, also shop owners, like so many shops now owned by women and outfitters I'm seeing, like there's like Melinda's Fly Shop has been owned by a woman, and there's Kate and Justin Crump, obviously their partner, but there's so many great outfitters of it, you know, reputable women in the industry that own.
I feel like from the social media perspective too, like representation, I feel like a lot of a community is like who feels invited to be on the water. And I feel like we've seen a huge growth in just brands like showcasing more women from the past 10 years being out on the river.
I feel like there's a lot of women's events too. Like I see more and more women's trips or like this call or just, I don't know, it feels like the community is really rallying. And I haven't been fly fishing that long, maybe 2015, 10 years. But yeah, I definitely am way more aware of the community of female anglers.
Cool. Thanks for humoring me. We have time for a couple more questions that we can cruise through. How do you connect your love of fly fishing to protecting the places you fish? What are some of the initiatives or organizations that you're involved with or support? And I know, Kayla, you chatted a little bit about this, but this is a really timely, and I mean, it's always a timely topic, but I'd love to hear just a little bit about that. And I'll drop this in the chat for you all as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely why I continue to be a face in the industry, is specifically for what you're talking about. Like, if for me, there's no sense of having a following or people that look up to me if I can't do something about it. And so being on the board with Sports on the Boundary Waters and Native Fish Society and giving back, and even if it's just hosting little river cleanups, there's so many ways to engage and teach people to give back to their home waters. And it's so important. I mean, now more than ever, obviously, with all the public lands things that are going on. And, you know, also, if you haven't called your senators, please call your senators. If you need any advice, feel free to DM me or anything if you want. But I'm always going to be an advocate for our outdoors first and foremost, and for our fish and wildlife. And so that's what fuels me to continue in this industry in general.
Yeah, I think getting involved in your local TU is really important. I think that, you know, we're all like involved in Casting for Recovery or Trout Unlimited or Project Killing Waters, which are all great, but those are all really local and regional ways that you can get involved. And so that help the greater good. And I think getting involved with your local conservancy, like for me, it would be the Harpeth River Conservancy, you know, being on the board, having a voice, standing up for what's right. I think, you know, regardless of what organization you pick, be it TU, CFR, I mean, there's a million of them, Mayfly Project, just get involved somewhere.
As guides, Natasha and I have made a real commitment to teaching every client that we have how to properly catch and release fish. So we use Keep Fish Wet. That's an organization that we actually have their fish package, and we have a fake fish that we teach people how to hold a fish so that you're not squishing it. And Trout Unlimited is a great organization that we do a lot with. And I think as far as the conservation message, we do a lot to like talk about the water that we're going to fish, and maybe the conditions in the water, and also you know, the kind of bug life that we see now versus what we used to see, and you know how the warming of the planet is affecting water temperatures. And especially water temperatures, we're really strict about that with ourselves. That, you know, anything over 65, it's too hot. Basically, if I can wet wade in it, it's too hot to fish. So we do different things like that as an outfitter, just really trying to spread that message one person at a time.
I think that piggybacking off of what everybody else has said, because obviously those are the things that we all find important in spreading awareness for our conservation efforts. But just kind of piggybacking off of that, like helping people understand when they come out to fish that the river system goes far beyond what they're looking at on the surface. Anglers, when they're first starting out, often come out and they're looking for the seams and they're looking for where they can place their fly, but they're not necessarily thinking about the fact that this is a living, breathing organism, this whole river, that everything works together the same way that our microbiome does in our gut, right? That everything is impacted by everything else that's going on around it, and kind of helping people fall in love with the magic of a river in general so that they want to protect it, and then giving them the resources to do so.
Awesome. I just dropped a link into the chat. Oh, nope. It was just, hold on. I'll redrop a link into the chat for what OnWater is doing. We actually were able to map the public waters that are at risk. So I'll share the link with y'all and y'all can check that out and also take action on that page as well.
That was a really good resource. I enjoyed seeing that the other day. A lot of folks are showing the land that is at risk, but to see the waters that are at risk was very stressful and also just a great use of your platform.
Thank you. Yes. Liam worked very hard on that map. We were very proud. Yeah, the whole conversation has mostly been around land. So we are really excited to add that thought leadership there with the water. Cool. Anyone else before I think Lindsay, are we moving on to our final question or do we have time for a couple more?
Well, just kind of on that same trajectory, I'm curious if you all had just like one conservation message that you could make go viral. What would it be, if anything?
Kayla looks stressed.
I don't have one word in me. I'm a over talker in the Midwest. You can't even hang up the call with me or I'll go another hour. But I don't know if it's one word, but one message I think would be just to advocate for the younger generation. Those are the people that are going to be the future of our waters and lands, and instilling with them why it's important is giving them an opportunity to connect with the outdoors. Once you can connect with the outdoors, you're going to want to protect it. So that's why I'm such a huge advocate for teaching and instructing and giving people, not everyone's going to love fishing. So maybe it's just connecting with the river in a different way. Some kids just love rowing down the river. Some kids love the bugs. Some kids do love fishing. Some kids love hunting. And so whatever it is, connect with them and help them find a catalyst to make them be in the outdoors more, to connect with the outdoors. And they're going to share it with their community and their kids. And they're going to grow up to then want to be the next leaders in our industry to want to protect it. And so I'm a huge advocate for just teaching in general. That was my one word.
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, really quick, just on the same thread of the next generation. Here it's a little bit different, but same thing, the next generation. It's so encouraging because fly fishing really has created like a new aspect to the career of being a fisherman here. So it's multi-generational families of fishermen here. And it started with sustenance fishing, and then it went to commercial fishing, and then sport fishing. And now there's this really big shift towards fly fishing. And fly fishing obviously is a lot less pressure on the fish. There's a huge catch and release aspect, placing value on the fish alive. And the fishermen are really catching on to that. And especially the younger generation. I mean, they like the gear, they like the swag, they like the social media. It's cool, right? And they like the guests, like really connecting with fly fishermen that come back every year. So that's been really encouraging from a conservation point perspective. Just fly fishermen in general tend to be more conscientious about conservation versus just coming down here, sport fishing, filling up your freezers, going home, right? So yeah, that's been really, I think the next generation, just to like what Kayla said exactly. It's just really encouraging. I'm super stoked for the next generation here. And really a lot of the captains, the younger generation, they weren't becoming captains, right? Like they want to go to the city, they want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, they want to, move out of this like very rural area. And fly fishing has, like I said, it's just like kind of created this like sexy aspect to being a fishing captain, which was like the career of their dads and their grandfathers who never left this like very rural area. So that also like gets me really excited. So I'm curious to see like in the next 5 to 10 years, how many younger captains we have. We don't have a ton right now, a handful. But yeah, the handful that we have are like really incredible, and it's cool to see. So I think fly fishing for here, that's like a huge conservation or just sustainability aspect, is that it's creating this new career where people are really motivated to preserve the fishery and like support the fishery.
I think that my concept of what I would want folks to think about for conservation is that when we have something that we love in our life, we nourish it. We nourish our relationship with our family. We nourish our relationship with our friends. We nourish our relationship to ourselves. And we would generally be considered a little bit selfish if we took and took and took without nourishing back. And our relationship with the outdoors gives us so much, especially in this country where we don't have reliable access to healthcare and mental health care. The outdoors is something that is always here for us. It nourishes us and heals us and gives us so much of what we need. And so many people do not turn around and nourish back. So if we have something that we love, nourish it, give to it, love it back, and it can take you a lot farther than you could think.
I would say my conservation message, especially right now, would be, protect our public lands and water. Like if we don't have access to public areas, then we don't have anything. So like Kayla said, call your senators.
It's so much easier than you think, people. And let me just say that you can feel like you're going to trip over your words, and you're going to, but nobody is going to call you out on that. They're not going to argue with you. Nobody is on the other end of that line to like interrogate your knowledge of the concept. It is totally okay for you to call and be like, I love grass and I love trees, and it makes me really happy to have those things in my life. And if those things are taken away because somebody builds a house on it, I'm going to be super bummed and I'm not going to vote for you. And you're allowed to do that. That's enough. And then you can just hang up the phone super quick. It's all right.
I love that you put that out there, because my biggest like question when I put that stuff out there is everyone's like, what do I say? What happens when they answer? And I'm like, just speak from the heart. Like if you care about it, just say how you feel and why you love the outdoors. What do you do in the outdoors? What's making you call and making you speak up? And so many people like would come back to me and like, I've never called before, ever, or anything before. And I've had a couple people, I'm calling in others, I'm not just calling my local, I'm calling where I'm like, hey, I'm a tourist. I I give you my dollars. I buy your fishing license for X, Y, and Z seasons. And, this is why I care about it. But I'm starting to ask, like, have you heard about the public lands issues? And they're like, yeah, we're getting a lot of calls. And it's just every place I'm calling, it's getting more and more. And so just keep it up. Keep it up, everyone.
And also, try to make it a habit. It gets easier. So put an alarm on your phone, or make it that it's your Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. And we call before breakfast, or we call during breakfast, and we leave our little voicemail with egg in our mouth, and it's okay. But make it a habit so that the pressure is sustained.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just because you called once, keep calling.
Yeah, I think on that note, it's easy for us in America to be like, oh, public lands. We have public lands. We can go fish in these areas and take it for granted. But when you fish overseas in a place like the River Spey, where you have to pay and others own the water, and there is no such thing as public lands, then I think that it becomes much more important. We can think that these things are going to be available to us all the time, but they can be taken away overnight. And I think that unless people on the everyday, the everyday angler, the everyday hunter, the everyday outdoor person gets involved and calls and makes it a point to tell people that public lands are important, we can watch them disappear before our eyes and not even know that it's happened.
That was an extremely important message. And I think that so many, especially people that are out west that grew up and born and raised here that I meet, and they're like, they can't understand the concept, what it's like when it's privatized, and it's like, it's pay to play. and we don't want that.
Yeah.
Some topics I just get so worked up that I have a complete brain fart, and this is one of them. So excuse me while I brain fart.
Kristen, your example of that, like stumbling over your words, is like the average voicemail I leave. So I definitely relate to that. So we can kick it to the next question. But thank y'all so much for your input. That was great. And definitely, I loved what Stacy said in the chat. If you're nervous, jot down a few notes for yourself. It's okay to read a script or go off notes. 100%. So yeah, thanks y'all. Okay, if y'all had to choose one or two pro tips to share that had positively impacted your growth in the sport, what would it be? Asking the hard questions.
That one's an easy one. So don't be afraid to fail. Those are like the biggest things that help me. And also teaching too is, if someone comes in with an ego, there's only so much you can do with helping them, grow in the sport and wanting to learn. You meant with like learning the sport specifically, right? Okay. Yeah, that would be my big two for sure. Don't be afraid to fail. Like have fun. It's relax. It's just fishing. And yeah, the fish doesn't mean success.
I have a super quick one too, actually. So for learning the sport, but then also for starting a business in this industry, number one is just don't give up. So being a single mom, I really started the fish ranch because it was something I could do working on my computer with very little sleep, lots of sleep deprivation, late nights, and be a single mom and be with my son. I didn't have the opportunity to give up. I still don't have the opportunity to give up. I would have given up so many times if I had like a safety net or something to do, something else to do, but I just didn't have the choice to give up. And I'm so glad I haven't because I love this job, this work. But just like if I could tell people one thing, whether it's learning to fly fish or tackling some obstacle or starting a business, especially like I'm in like year four of a business. I started in 2020, but like really started in 2021. So like just not giving up, just don't give up.
I agree with that. Don't give up. And like we are talking about, get involved with like your local communities. And if you don't have one, start your own. And then on top of that, like if you have, mean voices that are saying things, ignore them and focus on the people that are actually good in your life and that want to watch you grow. And yeah, because that's what all matters, right? It's the people that are gonna bring you up and you're gonna bring them up, never the negative comments. So keep going, don't quit. And if you get pushback, push harder.
I would say two things. Number one, know you belong. The first book of fly fishing was written by a woman in the 15th century. You belong in the front of a drift boat. You belong in a fly shop. You belong in the river. The major advances that have been made in fly fishing, a lot of them have been made by women. So know that you belong in this sport. And I guess, the second one is no one makes a perfect cast all the time. If they tell you that they do, they're lying. I mean, there are a lot of days when even I have a lot of days on the water and I fish like this. I cast and I get stuck in that tree over there. Then I pop it off and it gets stuck in the tree behind me. That's called fly fishing. I get tangled in my line more times than not. I've fallen out of drift boats and fallen off of the front of a flats boat. I mean, it's just called fishing. That's not embarrassing. It's called everyday fly angling. Don't be embarrassed when you do those things because guess what? Everyone does.
I also put in the chat, but I just have to chime in right now. Jen has the most insanely credible presentation on the history of women in fly fishing. Blow your freaking mind. It is so cool how far back it goes. And I feel like the amount of hours you must have put in to make that is.
It's an incredible history. Yeah, we have a very long history. So we would not be where we are today in fly without the influence of women. So.
And she's got all of the actual books, which is, I'm such a history nerd. I was like, oh, let me smell them.
It's funny. So last season and this season, both seasons I've had a guest lose an entire setup, like with the fish pulls it out. And just when Jen was talking, I was thinking about it, and both clients that happened to were, one owns a very well-known, is a CEO of a well-known line company. I won't say who it is, but, and then the other one just happened a couple weeks ago. This guy's a championship caster, like world championship caster, and they lost like their entire rig. Like one was the first day, and it's like, they didn't even think anything of it. They're like, oh, that sucked, whatever. But like if it was a woman learning to fish and you lost like your like first rod and reel, it'd just be devastating. So I just think that mentality of like Jen was saying, you get stuck in the tree or whatever, like don't take it personally, like just move on, because that's what all the guys are doing.
Yeah, and I mean, when's the last time, I think as women, we're always apologizing. We get our fly stuck in a tree and we apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry that you have to go over and get it. When was the last time that you ever saw a guy apologize when another guy had to go row over and get his fly out of a tree? It doesn't happen, right? So I think that a lot of times we're just so apologetic because we feel still like, oh my God, we're so new to this sport, but we're not. So own your space, ladies.
My pro tip would be, when you're on the water, always just stop and take a deep breath, especially right before you cast. Just think about what you're going to do. And I tell most of my clients that try to make every cast intentional, because sometimes we get a little too uptight about like, oh, I messed that up. Oh, I got to go do it again. And that's when we get stuck in the trees. And so if you're really intentional and take that deep breath and just kind of calm yourself down, it's just fly fishing.
I think to I think to piggyback off of that a little bit, because there's so much great advice here, like reach out and ask questions and don't be intimidated to make friends and connections. I think like people are always are more apt and excited to help and like share information than, and I think we just have this perception that they're not, and that they're not going to be like willing to help and support. So I think that's huge. And then to piggyback off of what you were saying, Fran, I think a lot of times if I could give a client advice, it would be to just like slow down. Like I'll really force people to like stop and observe the river and our surroundings before we like spot a really good hole and like spook all of the fish, because we think that we're immediately fishing the seam on the other side of the river. So like just slow down and observe, like what bugs are you noticing, and like what are you spotting any fish right away, and like just take a moment to like pause before you approach the river. Yeah, I think you'll find a lot more success there if you're a little bit more connected and in tune with the fishery and the species that you're targeting.
I have three, but I will be brief. My background is in behavior analysis. So for me, everything comes down to what goals are you setting for yourself and are they appropriate? I think that you need to, for anybody who's learning how to fly fish, set appropriate goals for yourself. Catching a big fish is not an appropriate goal for a beginner. Your appropriate goal should be something along the lines of, I want to walk out today, and the time that I spend on water, I'm going to focus on my mending. And because I know that I'm focusing on my mending, I'm going to know when to congratulate myself. I'm going to know that I don't need to be hard on myself for not making a perfect cast, because I'm not working on a perfect cast right now. I'm working on good mending. And if it's not mending, then it's stopping at the right place in your stopping points in your cast. And if it's not that, it's selecting the correct leader. And if it's not that, it's staying patient with yourself. But choose an appropriate goal so that you know how to quantifiably decide whether or not you are achieving your goals or not. And then give yourself celebratory pats on the back when you do that. Nobody's going to be out there with you making sure that you meet your goals. It's just you and yourself out there. So it's up to you to find your own success. You define that by setting appropriate goals. So that would be my first thing for yourself. And then I would say that you need to get comfortable with frustration. And that looks like Dr. Becky's learning space. I don't know if anybody up in here has seen Dr. Becky's learning space, but in general, the concept here is that we as humans, especially women, take not knowing and knowing, and we want that to be a linear progression in between those two things, because we tend to lock our value into knowing. And that's why we take it so hard on ourselves when we don't know. But really the beauty of knowing and not knowing is that in between these two spaces, there are these ups and downs that you're going to go through. And in those valleys of frustrations, you have two options. You're either going to give up and you're going to say mean things to yourself in your head, or you're going to redefine your goal, assess what's going wrong, and you're going to keep going. Because when you do, you're going to find knowing on the other side. And that the more comfortable you can get with those peaks and valleys, the more reinforcing and lovely being in that space of not knowing is. That's called the learning space. And if you can see the learning space as one step away from knowing, your time in fly fishing is going to be increased. You're not going to give up as easily. You're going to have way more, what's the word that I'm looking for? When you can like take the beats, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. And then I would say that you need to, from this is my experience, know when you are being unkind to yourself. Pay attention to when you hear yourself being unkind to yourself in your head. If you don't get it correctly the right time, if you feel like you're failing, if you notice that the words in your head are saying unkind things to you that you would never say to another female angler, I want you to pay attention to those things, give yourself grace, and find a way to switch that script around. We use these voices in our heads way more than we do just in fly fishing. Otherwise, they wouldn't show themselves when you get your fly stuck in a tree, or when you break your leader off, or when you mess up a presentation, right? So if you can find something else to replace that with, it's okay, I'm just learning. Use that instead. If you can notice the unkindness in your head, replace it and just keep going, and you're going to be in this game for a really long time.
Thanks, Chris. And I'm going to echo what Rebecca said in the chat. We all needed this. Thank you so much. So I know we're kind of 12 minutes out. I wanted to pivot real quick to Q&A. So we have our first question from Tiffany Hampshire. What are some resources to learn about what flies to use?
Your local fly shop.
Yeah.
That's kind of getting lost with technology and everyone wants to Google things, but your local fly shop can give you so much knowledge, and they know the water's there, and whether you just moved it, but also OnWater app is a great resource. Like, there's to find the locations, you can find shops there, you can find the conditions that can help you then make an assumption with what the flows are, what hatches could be happening, and then even bringing that information to the shop and say, you know, what flies do you recommend?
There's also a link. Usually a lot of fly shops, you can like go to their website or their Instagram, and they'll typically have a link to like a river report. And in the river report, they'll specify, you know, river conditions. And they'll be like, this morning we saw, you know, midges, blah, blah, blah. Here's some patterns that we would use, or we saw blueing olive popping off this afternoon. And here's some, you know, here's some specific fly patterns. And I think that you can learn so much from that, especially if you're utilizing your like local fly shops. And then you can, you know, go to the river and assess that yourself and be like, oh, they said midges. And then like look and see if you can, you know, find that and discover that yourself. So man, I think that was super, super helpful for me for a really long time.
I'm going to piggyback off of Kayla. With the local fly shop, it's so great to find people who are able to like recommend any flies. But what I found, especially after having worked in a fly shop, people will ask what's working, but they don't know how to rig it. And so, I mean, I know it's super gatekeepy, but it's up to you to ask them like, oh, that's a great recommendation. How would you rig it? Because a lot of times it does have to do with depth. If you are nymphing, or if you're, you know, dropping it off of a dry fly, like ask them, because they should know. And a lot of times they will tell you, but they're there also to sell flies. So don't really like take it with a grain of salt. I found that I was buying all the right flies, but I wasn't putting weight. I wasn't, you know, tying it with the appropriate length of tippet. And so a lot of times I would get frustrated because people would be saying, oh, I'm using this fly and I'm using the same one, but I wasn't catching fish. And so just know that like they should be able to tell you how to rig it.
I think most fly shops, and I know our Cleveland Metro Parks back home, they would put on entomology classes. And I'm a big class gal. I don't care like if I've done it a million times, I'll still take a beginner's class. So I mean, use your resources, use your local parks. But yeah, I mean, flip some rocks, be a kid. If you have kids, flip rocks with them. I mean, like, what's so cool? I mean, looking at bugs is freaking awesome. So take an entomology class.
Additionally, if you would like to do things on a very DIY kind of way, hatch charts exist. So you can, for example, the river I guide on is the Yakima. So I can type in Yakima River hatch chart, and that is going to pop up on your x-axis. It's going to, I'm sorry, your y-axis, it's going to give you your species. So all of the different insects that exist in that water system. On your x-axis, it's going to give you the months of the year. Using that hatch chart, you can see the types of insects that are going to be hatching at any given point on that river system. Please do keep in mind that those hatches that it's showing you are when the adults are on the water. That does not mean that the nymphs do not exist in the water prior to that. So check out your hatch chart and then educate yourself. What is the life cycle of a mayfly versus a caddis versus a stonefly? How many different fly patterns could I buy in order to emulate every single milestone within that space? You don't have to. That's ridiculous and super expensive. But it is helpful if you're curious about it to know, and a hatch chart is a really great way to get yourself started. If there is not a hatch chart for your local river, there is a hatch chart for your region.
And if all else fails, throw a squirmy worm or a clouser.
I love it. I was gonna add, because this might not relate to a lot of people on here, but when I started out, I realized that I cared more about how I was fishing versus catching the fish. And so if that's something that speaks to you, like I knew that I did not enjoy nymphing. I just didn't like it. It just reminded me of conventional fishing. That's just a personal thing. And I didn't care that my friend was catching way more fish than me. I would much rather use my trout spay. I liked the cast. I liked those flies. So also just take it in consideration, like if the fish isn't that important to you and you really want to just hone in on the specific style, then choose those flies and go with that. It doesn't matter if the person you're with is out fishing you, if you're having fun still. And that's a lot of times me, where I'm always getting out fish because I want to throw a streamer, or I want to throw my trout spay, or I will just refuse it to check nymph. So it just depends on what you like. So don't be afraid to just fish the way you enjoy fishing.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so final, I think we have like one little quick question from Shane here. He said, product guy from OnWater here, because it was said earlier, women's products need more improvement. How can a digital tool like OnWater Fish help get more women on the water? Dream big.
I think you're doing it right now.
Yay.
Yeah, like Jen is nailing it. Like this stuff like this. What other brand is doing stuff like this? This is incredible. Other than like, oh, a woman founded brand, I'm sure. But you know what I mean? This isn't like a Facebook group. This is a brand coming together with they put in so much time with our schedules, aligning it to get all of us on this panel and promoting it. And it's incredible that a brand will take time out of their marketing budget and their the staff time to put these events on like this. And it's so cool. We have technology now and we're not utilizing as much as we could to do something like this. And so it's so rad. And I love working for OnWater for that specific reason. These type of things, they're not even just asking it for the public, they're asking it internally and to the people they work with, which is huge. But how could they get more help with women on the water though? I mean, this is great, but if I can like be a marketing brainstorm, like women's trips or women's clinics would be cool and rad. Maybe we like meet up somewhere, an on-water meetup. We all send each other a pin through the app and meet up and fish. Like there's so many things like, it'd be so rad if we were all in person. We all could go fishing after this is what I'm getting at.
I kind of liked at the beginning how everyone was introducing like themselves and where they're at, and then people started like connecting and making friends. I wish that there's United Women on the Fly does a really good job at like where you could connect with other women. I wonder if there's a way to like utilize and bring that together, like United Women on the Fly in that community, but also like OnWater and that accessibility to that app. Like, is there a way where you could be like, oh, like here's this meetup in my town, Carbondale. Here's like some other gals who fish. Like, I would love to connect. I think that's like the biggest thing I struggle with is like, I'd love more girlfriends to go fish with. And I have a hard time finding them, surprisingly. So
Great idea, Shy. Like if the app, like it knows your location, obviously, because it's a map app, and it's like if there was a thing where you type in like, I don't know, like age, sex, location to be like lane, like
Yeah.
it will be like if you want to connect, OnWater's hosting a women's thing, and it's not like anyone at OnWater had to be there. Just be like, hey, this date, and then it would be like these many people use the app or in your community. There, it's something there. I like where you're going with that, though.
It really is, especially because like back to the behavior stuff, there's always reinforcement that's going to either keep you going and doing something or it's going to like slow that down. And women being able to go out and like play together in nature is one of those like reinforcing little glue bits that just keeps you moving forward in fly fishing for so much longer. And so finding ways to allow women to connect and do like little fly fishing speed dating, you know, and like get out and go play together is so fun.
I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but I do think that for a lot of women who are solo fishing, like a safety aspect could be really cool. Especially somebody who's like maybe urban angling, just knowing like if there are, you know, waters that women should maybe like be more cautious of, or maybe there's no cell service, make sure you have like a Garmin or something with you, so that they can like check in with people. I know as a guide, like I would have to go places that I didn't have cell service, and you know, I was very lucky and like nothing happened, but it'd be nice to kind of be able to look that up and know, okay, I should be prepared. I should have something that I can message. Because sometimes you show up to waters and you don't realize until you're there. And then the water looks great. And you're just like, I want to fish it. So I don't care that I have cell service. So something along those lines could be really helpful, and not necessarily just for women, maybe even for men too, but just thinking it from a safety perspective.
That's a rad idea. And it makes me think of, you know, I don't know if this is anywhere doable because I'm not an engineer with applications and platforms, but you know, like when you're on like a Lyft or an Uber, like whenever I get in an Uber, it immediately shares my location with my husband so that he can track when I get there and he knows that I get there safely. Like maybe there's something there where it can like ping somebody or like share a location with somebody when you're going somewhere, or if you were map routed, maybe there's something there. That's for the internal team to figure out.
Yeah. Natasha, I'll circle back. So we actually recently launched our cell phone layers. It's you can add, and it's all the different providers too. So AT&T, T-Mobile, and that messaging has been really popular with women because you can download the offline map too. So even if you're on the water
That's
and you
awesome.
don't have phone service, if there is an emergency, you can see like, oh, just like 1 mile away, I'm going to be able to access cell phone service just in case there is something. And so I feel like that has definitely been a game changer. I used that feature last week, and yeah, super helpful just to have that safety net. And yes, no, like, do I need a Garmin or do I need to have like this contingency plan? So 100% safety. Yeah, I feel like there's the community and then there's like the solo safety for sure.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know we are like at time and we have a raffle. So, Lindsay, can I kick it to you here to kind